Chapter 1: The Discovery. I walked into the house, expecting a quiet evening after a long week of meetings and back-to-back calls. But as soon as I stepped inside, everything felt wrong. The air was thick with the smell of fresh paint, a scent I hadn't anticipated. The usual calm of my lake house, the sanctuary I had spent so many years building, was replaced with the sounds of hammers and drills. My heart skipped a beat as I saw workers moving in and out of rooms, tearing apart my space, my home, the one thing I had left that was truly mine. I stopped at the doorway, my breath catching in my throat. What is going on here? My heart raced and a wave of confusion and anger surged through me. I wasn't just shocked by the noise and the chaos. I was violated, stripped of control over something so personal. My hand shook as I reached for my phone, dialing my mother's number. I stopped at the doorway, my breath catching in my throat. What is going on here? Then it hit me. They did this without asking me. My family, the people I trusted the most, had made a decision that would change everything, without consulting me, without even a single word. They had crossed a line and I hadn't even seen it coming. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking as I dialed my mother. The words came out in a rush, too fast as I tried to hold back the anger and confusion building inside. Why didn't you tell me about this? Why didn't you ask? This is my house, my space. I don't care if you think it needs a refresh. I should have been included in the decision. Her voice came through the phone, smooth and calm, as if this was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Oh, Ava, we thought it was time to refresh the place. The house has been sitting here for so long. We thought you'd appreciate it. Appreciate it? I couldn't even begin to process what I was hearing. You didn't think to ask me? This is my house, my space. I don't care if you think it needs a refresh. I should have been included in the decision. Her response was cool, dismissive almost, like she was tired of hearing it. You've been so busy with your company, Ava. We didn't want to bother you. Max and I thought it was a good idea, something to bring the family together. I felt my chest tighten. The family. Since when is it okay for you to make decisions about my life, my property, without even consulting me? I hung up the phone before she could respond. The betrayal hit me like a freight train, and suddenly I realized how much I had ignored over the years. I had worked so hard to get where I was, and yet here they were, doing what they wanted, taking what they thought was theirs. But I was done being passive, done letting them decide for me. This wasn't just about a house. It was about control, and for the first time in a long while, I wasn't going to let them have it. I was going to make them understand. I had spent my whole life fighting for everyone else's happiness, sacrificing my own. But now I was fighting for me, for everything I had built, for everything I had earned, and I wasn't going to let them take that from me. The smell of fresh paint hit me, sharp and unfamiliar. I glanced around the foyer, only to find a team of workers moving in and out of the rooms, hammering, sanding, and pulling down drapes. My mind raced. I knew I hadn't hired anyone. I didn't even remember authorizing any renovations. Excuse me, what's going on here? I asked one of the workers, my voice already tight with confusion and rising anger. Oh, we're just finishing up the remodel. Your mom said you'd approve the changes when you got back. I froze. My heart sunk as I processed his words. I hadn't approved anything. My mother hadn't said a word about this. My hands began to shake as I stepped further into the living room, my eyes scanning the damage. Wallpaper ripped down, furniture moved, and half the kitchen in disarray. It wasn't just a renovation. It was a complete overhaul of a space I'd carefully designed to feel like mine, a sanctuary I had reflected my taste, my effort. I fumbled for my phone and dialed my mother's number. The call barely rang before she picked up. "Hello, darling," she said in her usual calm, almost rehearsed tone. "How are you?" I felt a lump form in my throat. "What's going on, Mom? Why is there a crew in the house? Why wasn't I told about any of this?" There was a brief pause before she responded, her voice soft but distant. "Oh, Ava, we've talked about this. We decided the house needed a bit of a refresh. The house has been sitting here for so long. We thought you'd appreciate it." Appreciate it? I couldn't even begin to process what I was hearing. "You didn't think to ask me? This is my house, my space. I don't care if you think it needs a refresh. I should have been included in the decision." She wasn't understanding any of the anger or any of the anxiety. "Well, sweetheart, you've been so busy with your company, you haven't been home enough to care about the house. It's been neglected. Max has been more involved. He's been helping with the renovations, making sure everything's up to par. You know how it is. The family needs to work together on these things." I felt the sting of betrayal seep in. "Neglected?" I echoed, my voice barely a whisper as I struggled to keep my composure. "This house is my project, my hard work. It's everything I have built and poured my soul into. And you just decided to change it without telling me?" "I didn't think it'd be a big deal, Ava. We wanted to make things more comfortable, something the whole family could enjoy. You don't have to be so upset about it." I wanted to scream, to yell at her for dismissing my feelings, for treating me like I didn't matter in my own life. But instead, I just felt the walls close in. My vision blurred for a second, the shock of it all settling in. "Do you realize what you've done?" I finally said, my voice shaking. "You've taken something that was mine and made it yours without asking me. You've completely changed everything without my consent. And you expect me to just accept it?" There was a long pause, the silence almost suffocating. "Ava, this isn't the time for this. I know you're upset, but this was for the best. You'll see once it's all done. It'll be better for everyone." I could feel my frustration building. "Better for everyone?" I repeated, bitterness creeping into my voice. This was never about what was best for everyone. This was about what you and Max wanted, and you made the decision without even considering me. I was about to say more, but I stopped myself. I wasn't going to keep begging for respect. Not from her. Not from any of them. I needed to act. I needed to take control. "I can't believe this is happening," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm coming back to the city to sort this out. You better have answers when I get there." I hung up before she could say anything else. My head was spinning, my body tight with tension. I needed to get this under control. I couldn't let them walk all over me like this. Not anymore. I was going to make them understand. I had spent my whole life fighting for everyone else's happiness, sacrificing my own. But now, I was fighting for me, for everything I had built, for everything I had earned, and I wasn't going to let them take that from me. Chapter 2. The Confrontation. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I knew I had to face them. I had to stand my ground, even if it meant shattering what little was left of the family I once knew. The drive back to the house felt like a lifetime, each passing mile feeding my anger, my frustration, and my hurt. I had spent so long building my life, and now it felt like it was being taken from me, piece by piece. When I walked through the door, Max and Susan were sitting at the kitchen table, chatting like everything was normal. The smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air, and it made my stomach twist. This was supposed to be my sanctuary, my space. Yet here they were, acting like they had every right to tear it apart. Max was the first to speak. His voice was smooth, almost casual. "You're back early," he said, not even looking up from his phone. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. "I'm not here to make small talk," I snapped. "I want to know why the hell you didn't tell me about the renovations. Why was I kept in the dark?" Susan, who had been quiet up until now, finally spoke. "Ava, honey, this wasn't a decision we made lightly. We've been talking about this for months. The house was starting to feel out of place. We thought it needed a little upgrade. It's for the whole family." "Since when does the whole family get a say in my house?" I demanded, feeling the anger rise up in me. "This is my house, not a family project. You had no right to make these changes without even consulting me. It's my money, my hard work that's been invested here." Max finally put down his phone, his eyes narrowing. "You've been so wrapped up in your work lately, Ava. You don't even come around. You haven't been involved in any of this. We thought it was time to make it a place where the whole family could enjoy, not just you." I could feel the sting of his words, even though I knew they weren't true. "This isn't about enjoying anything," I shot back. "This is about you doing whatever you want without thinking about the consequences, without considering me at all." Susan sighed, almost as if she was the one being wronged here. "Ava, honey, you don't get it. We're just trying to help you. You've been so busy with your company, you've neglected the family. You're always at the office, always working. Don't you think it's time to focus on what's important?" The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Neglected? She had the nerve to say I'd neglected the family? I had given everything for this family, my time, my energy, and every bit of love I could offer, and this is how they repaid me. I stood up straighter, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've spent years building something that's mine. I've worked hard for it, and all I get from you is criticism. You think because I've been busy that I don't care about this family, but you're wrong. I care more than you'll ever know." Max stood up too, his posture now defensive. "It's not just about your work, Ava. It's about being part of the family. You can't just shut us out. We've tried to include you, but it's like you don't care. It's like you've chosen your company over us." I could feel my jaw tighten. "I'm not choosing anything over you. I'm building my future. I've made sacrifices to make this company a success, and you know that. But you—" I stopped, trying to keep the emotion in check. "You've crossed a line and I won't stand for it." Susan shook her head slowly, as if she was the one being wronged here. "You're overreacting, Ava. We just wanted what was best for you. You don't need to make such a big deal out of everything." I could feel the weight of her words, the way she was trying to dismiss everything I'd worked for. She was treating me like a child, like I didn't know what I was talking about, like my opinion didn't matter. "I'm not overreacting," I said, my voice cold now. "What you've done is wrong, and I won't let you get away with it." Max stepped closer, his face angry. "You're being dramatic, Ava. It's just a few changes. You'll see. Once it's done, you'll be grateful. This is what's best for the family." I shook my head. "You don't get it, Max. This isn't about what's best for the family. It's about you making decisions for everyone without even asking me. This is my house, my life. You've taken something that's mine without my permission." Max looked at me like I was crazy, like I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But I wasn't, and I knew it. This was about respect, about trust, and they had violated both. I could feel the tension building between us, the air thick with anger and disappointment. But there was something else too, something deeper. I realized then that this wasn't just about the house. This wasn't just about the renovations. This was about something much bigger. I was done. Done letting them make decisions for me, done pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. I couldn't go on like this, letting them walk all over me. The knot in my stomach tightened as I made my decision. "I'm going to take this to court," I said.
my voice cutting through the silence. I'm going to fight for what's mine. Max's eyes widen in disbelief. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm serious, I said, my gaze unwavering. You've pushed me too far, and now I'm going to make you understand just how wrong you were.
Chapter 3. The battle begins. And I was ready to fight for everything I had worked for. The weight of the decision hung heavily on me as I sat at my desk, staring at the piles of paperwork. My once peaceful sanctuary had been ripped from my hands, and now it was time to fight back. I reached for my phone and dialed Benjamin Carter's office. The phone rang for a moment before he picked up, his voice calm but reassuring. "Ava," he said, "how are you holding up?" "I'm ready to start," I replied, my voice steady. "I need to go after them. They've taken everything, and now it's time for them to pay for it. I need you to help me gather everything we can. I don't care how long it takes. We're going to do this right." Benjamin paused for a moment, then said, "I'm on it. I'll get my team to start looking into the financials. If they've been hiding things, we'll find it." I hung up, feeling a small sense of relief. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As I sat back in my chair, I couldn't help but replay the events that had led me here. My family, the people I trusted most, had systematically taken control of everything I had worked for. My house, my career, my future. It was all part of their plan to push me out. And they'd done it all behind my back. I reached out to Amanda next. I had known her since college, and she'd been a constant in my life, someone who knew everything about me. She was the one person I could count on to help me find the answers. "I need you to help me dig into this," I said, when she picked up. "They've been moving money, hiding things. It's more than just the house. I need to know what they've done, how far this goes." Amanda didn't hesitate. "I'm already on it," she replied. "I'll start by pulling all the records from the accounts I can access. I'll see what I can find and send it over." "Thanks, Amanda. I don't know what I'd do without you right now." The next few days were a blur. I hardly slept, spending late nights reviewing documents, emails, anything that could give me a lead. Benjamin's team worked tirelessly, pouring through the financial records, while Amanda and I sifted through old contracts and bank statements. What we uncovered was worse than I had imagined. They had moved money into offshore accounts, hidden assets under fake companies, and funneled funds through shell corporations. It wasn't just the renovations they'd done to my house. They'd been siphoning off millions, making sure they kept control of everything while I was kept in the dark. I had no idea how deep this went, but it didn't matter anymore. I had to get to the bottom of it. I met with Benjamin in person a few days later to go over everything. His office was sleek and modern, the kind of place that exuded authority. As we sat down, he pushed a folder across the table to me, his expression serious. "Here's what we've got," he said, opening the folder. "They've been hiding money for years, using your family's company as a cover. We've got enough to show that they've been stealing from you. It's not just the house. This is a full-on operation." I took the folder and began flipping through the papers. There were bank records, wire transfers, and emails that showed just how far they had gone. The more I read, the more my anger built. I couldn't believe how long they had been doing this, how they so easily manipulated me. "They're going to regret this," I said, the words almost a growl as I slammed the papers down on the table. Benjamin nodded. "We've got the evidence we need. It's time to file the lawsuit. The next step is to get it in front of a judge." But as the reality of the situation settled in, something else began to bother me. This wasn't just about money. This was about control, about my family thinking they had the right to decide what happened to my life. They thought they could take it all from me without consequence, without even bothering to ask. But they were wrong. As I drove back home that evening, my mind raced with thoughts of the battle ahead. I wasn't just fighting for the house, for my career.
I was fighting for my right to exist on my own terms, for my dignity, and for the future I had worked so hard to create. They underestimated me. That night, I sat down at my desk again and began drafting the letter that would change everything. I was going to sue them for everything. The letter would demand they stop all actions immediately, that they return the stolen assets and compensate me for the damage they had done. The sound of the typewriter keys clicking filled the silence, and for the first time in days, I felt a sense of clarity. This was my life, and I was going to fight for it. As I signed the letter and prepared it to be sent, I felt the weight of my decision lift. The next steps would be hard, but I knew what I had to do. This was only the beginning, and I was ready for what was coming next.
Chapter 4: The Courtroom Drama. This was only the beginning, and I was ready for what was coming next. The drive to the courthouse felt endless, but my resolve was stronger than ever. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. Not now, not ever. The weight of what I was about to face didn't sink in until I stepped into the courthouse. The sterile air, the sound of heels clicking on the marble floor, and the cold efficiency of the legal world reminding me that I was about to battle not only my family, but the system that was supposed to protect me. The first day of the trial was intense. My lawyer, Benjamin Carter, had already briefed me on the basics, but nothing could have prepared me for the wave of emotions that washed over me as we walked into the courtroom. Max, Susan, and their lawyer were already seated, their faces unreadable, but I could feel their eyes on me as I walked toward the plaintiff's table. "Are you ready for this?" Benjamin asked, his voice low as he placed his hand on my shoulder. I nodded. I have to be. The judge entered and the proceedings began. The formalities were quickly settled and we got to the heart of the matter. Benjamin stood up, motioning for me to stay seated as he presented our case. The evidence we had gathered, the financial records, the secretive bank transfers, the proof of how Max had manipulated the business accounts, all came to light. We have documented proof that the defendant, Max Thompson, along with his associates, has engaged in a series of fraudulent financial activities, Benjamin said, his voice steady but full of authority. We can show that not only has he used his influence in the family business to funnel assets into offshore accounts, but he also used these funds for personal gain, leaving the rightful owner, Ava Thompson, in the dark. Max's lawyer immediately rose to object. "Objection, Your Honor. The plaintiff is making accusations without solid evidence." Benjamin wasn't deterred. He simply reached for the folder in front of him and slid the documents toward the judge. "Your Honor, we have not only the financial documents, but also statements from former employees and associates who can confirm these actions were done behind Ava Thompson's back. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. This was a deliberate attempt to conceal assets and defraud a rightful heir." The tension in the courtroom was palpable. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. This was the moment. This was the fight I had been preparing for. Then, as if the universe was aligning for me, I saw him. The man who had been lurking behind the scenes for too long. Simon Clark. He was an old family friend, a business partner of Susan's for years. He had always been the quiet one, the one who never said much but seemed to know everything. But now, Simon was no longer just a shadow. He was front and center. Simon had been waiting for this moment, and when Simon was called to the stand, I could see the fear in his eyes. "Mr. Clark, can you explain your role in these transactions?" Benjamin asked, his tone sharp. Simon looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting between the judge and the attorneys. I was just helping with some business transactions. Nothing out of the ordinary," he stammered. Benjamin's eyes narrowed. "Just helping. Mr. Clark, are you aware that these transactions you helped with were not only unauthorized, but also designed to conceal millions of dollars from the rightful owner of this estate?" Simon shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I didn't think it was that serious. It was all in the family's best interest." Benjamin pressed on.
So you admit to being complicit in this scheme to defraud Ava Thompson out of her inheritance. The room fell silent as Simon's face reddened. He stammered, but the words were no longer coming out. He knew he was caught. He knew the game was over. I sat there watching him squirm, feeling a sense of justice begin to settle over me. I had spent so many months wondering how I was going to get to this point, and now that it was finally happening, it felt surreal. I glanced over at my family. Susan was sitting with her arms crossed, her face tight with anger. Max, on the other hand, had his eyes fixed on the floor, his fingers tapping nervously against the table. There was no smug smile on his face now. The weight of the truth had hit him, and he knew there was no way out. The rest of the trial proceeded with more evidence being presented, more documents, more proof of the deceit and manipulation that had been going on for years. Every argument they tried to make, every excuse, was dismantled. Benjamin and his team were relentless, and it was clear they had done their homework. After what felt like an eternity, the judge called for a short recess. I sat back in my chair, letting out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I felt tired, but it was a good kind of tired, the kind that comes with knowing you fought for something important. "We're winning, Ava," Benjamin said, smiling as he looked at me. "They're cornered. There's no way they can deny it now." I nodded, but my mind was still racing. I wasn't ready to celebrate yet. There was still more to come. And I knew that once the final verdict was read, nothing would be the same again.
Chapter 5. Starting over. And I knew that once the final verdict was read, nothing would be the same again. I had spent months preparing for this moment, gathering evidence, facing family members who I had once trusted with everything I had. But now I was standing on my own, ready to move forward. The day the judge handed down the decision, I felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. It was over. The family I had fought so hard to protect was now exposed for the lies they had been hiding for years. I had won, but at what cost? The realization hit me in waves. I wasn't just fighting for money or assets. I was fighting for something more. My dignity, my freedom, and, most importantly, my right to make my own decisions without anyone trying to control me. As I stood in the courtroom, listening to the judge's final words, I felt like I was shedding an old skin. The burden of trying to please my family, of carrying the weight of their expectations, gone. All of it was behind me now. But the truth was, I had learned something in the process. This battle, this fight for justice, wasn't just about proving I was right. It was about proving to myself that I was strong enough to stand up for what I believed in. The legal victory was just the beginning. After everything was over, I found myself sitting alone in my office, staring at the city skyline, thinking about what was next. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about what my family thought or whether I would be accepted by them. I was finally free. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. I had come a long way from the woman who had walked into that courtroom terrified, unsure of her place in the world. Now, I knew exactly who I was, and more importantly, I knew what I was capable of. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into my work. I started expanding my real estate business, taking on new projects that I had been too hesitant to pursue before. I built a team of talented women who shared my vision, women who were determined to break down the barriers that had been placed in front of them. Together, we created a company that was built on values of respect, integrity, and empowerment. As I grew my business, I realized that I was also growing as a person. I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I was a leader, a mentor, and a role model for other women who had faced their own challenges. I saw so many of them struggle with the same obstacles I had: the pressure to conform, the doubt cast on their abilities, the fear of being dismissed or overlooked. But with each success, each milestone we achieved, I saw their confidence grow, just as mine had.
One afternoon, I was sitting in my office when I got a call from Lily, my old friend from college. She'd always been supportive, even when things got tough. I had helped her start her own business years ago, and now she was calling to share some exciting news. Ava, you're not going to believe this. I just signed my first big deal, Lily said, her voice filled with excitement. I couldn't have done it without you, without everything you taught me. You showed me how to stand up for myself, how to take control of my own future. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. It was moments like this that reminded me of why I had started this journey in the first place. It wasn't just about winning. It was about helping others see their own potential, to realize that they could fight for what they deserved, just as I had fought for mine. As the weeks turned into months, I continued to build my business. But I also built something else, a community of women who supported each other, lifted each other up, and believed that no dream was too big to achieve. Together, we were changing the real estate game, one deal at a time. But even more than that, I was changing my own life. I had learned that freedom didn't come from having more money or more power. It came from knowing that you could stand tall on your own, without anyone's approval or validation. It came from finding your voice and using it, no matter who tried to silence you. And as I looked at the city lights twinkling below, I knew that I had finally found the life I was meant to lead. I wasn't defined by my family, by the lies they told, or by the battles I fought. I was defined by my own choices, by the strength I had built from the ground up, and by the people I had helped along the way. I wasn't just starting over. I was creating something new, something that was mine, and I was going to protect it, no matter what.